Hey guys, so this is going to be my very first video talking about my VSG surgery. And for those of you who don't know, that is vertical sleeve gastrectomy. So I decided to have this surgery because I've been overweight my whole life. Other people who have had this, they know it's a struggle. You try every diet you can think of and nothing really works. It can kind of make you feel like the only option you have left is weight loss surgery. And not that that's a bad option, it's just a really big decision and a really big choice. So over this summer, I found this person on Twitter who was like, I lost over 100 pounds and she looked amazing, and I clicked it and I was like, how did she do that? She looked, I think, a lot like I do right now. And she messaged back to me and said that she had had the VSG surgery. And I was like, wow, I never even considered that. I didn't know about that surgery. And honestly, I didn't think I was big enough to be able to have it. But when you kind of figure out that you are, it almost is like a slap in the face, like, wake up. If you're big enough for insurance to pay for this surgery, you kind of need it. At least that's the way I felt. So I started my process at the beginning of August 2017, and it is a really long process depending on what type of insurance you have. So I went to Ohio State Wexner Medical Center, and they have a really good rate of people who keep the weight off, and so I knew they had a good program. So you first have to start by going to an interest meeting, and then they give you an application packet, and that's kind of how you get started, but you have to go to the meeting. So I went to the meeting and met who was now going to be my surgeon there, and she was amazing, and I was like, wow, this is really what I want to do. So I go home, I submitted the application. About maybe a month and a half later, I had my first appointment there, and I had to go through a psychological evaluation that sort of looks for if you're an emotional eater, or what are your eating habits. Are you a binge eater, stuff like that. They do, for me, they did a personality test, and then I met with a psychologist who had the results from that and asked me questions. And it was interesting because actually, meeting with the psychologist, he diagnosed me with ADHD, which is something that I always kind of thought that I had, but never was tested for. So that was interesting, and he said it's really hard for people with untreated ADHD to keep up after the surgery because you do have to plan ahead with meals a lot and think I need to eat every 2 hours or so, or drink every 30 minutes. So he put me right on ADHD medicine, which helped a lot with everything. But so that appointment went fine. He said I was cleared to have the surgery. I know something that can hold you back is if depression and anxiety. They warned me about that, because if you have really bad untreated depression, they're worried that the big changes in the surgery could make it worse. Some people do get a little bit depressed after the surgery, just realizing they've left all this food behind them for hopefully forever. And so if you have issues with that, they'll just continue those appointments until you work out whatever works for you. So I moved on from that, and then I had a meeting with a dietitian, and they sort of gave me information, found out what I'm eating now, and then what I should be eating working up to the surgery. And then I also met with a doctor who just kind of went over all my health problems. And so at least at Ohio State, you have to have a 40 BMI for your insurance, typically for the surgery to be fully covered. If you have 35 to 40, you have to have 2 comorbidities, I think it was called. So sleep apnea or diabetes or something. I knew that I didn't have any of those, and my BMI was at a 39.5. So luckily that doctor was really kind and sort of just scooted me up a little bit, just because she knew if I gained 5 more pounds, I would have been in the 40 BMI weight group anyway. So she was like, if you keep going like this, you're going to be at that level, so let's get started now on the track to being healthy. So she was really, really awesome about that. And then after that, it was sort of a waiting game, trying to get letters from my other doctor and everything sort of put together. My insurance didn't require me to have a 6-month diet. I know a lot of insurances do. That's the reason, another reason I wanted to do this young is because I'm still on my parents' insurance and I know theirs is very good. And I know I probably won't have great insurance afterwards. So I was very fortunate with that. And so it did end up taking me about 6 months or so to have the surgery. They also did a sleep apnea test on me. They didn't think I had it, so they just had me do an at-home test. And honestly, that was not fun, but I'm sure it's worse if you actually have to go in. But I had 0.04 level of sleep apnea, which is like extremely low. So they were like, oh, you don't have that. So now the last step is just to submit it to your insurance. Oh, I also had to have an endoscopy, which was not fun at all. And I don't want to scare people, but I don't know. Sometimes they'll put you under anesthesia for an endoscopy, but sometimes they just give you Versed, which is what they did in my case. And I was awake the whole time, and no, I'm not doing that again without anesthesia. So if you know that Versed doesn't really calm you down a lot, or if you're really scared about that, I would suggest asking for anesthesia, because you don't want to be awake when they're putting a tube down your throat. It's not fun. So after that was all over, everything's done. They submitted me to insurance, and I just kind of had to wait. And honestly, I thought that was going to be a really long wait, but it was probably only like 3 weeks. So they were like, okay, now we have to schedule a pre-op appointment. And I had that scheduled for January 21st of this year. And that was going to be the date where they scheduled my surgery. I was going to meet with the surgeon and everything. And so I was counting down the days. I planned on maybe having the surgery over spring break in March of this year. And that was my original plan. But then a couple days after scheduling that appointment, it was probably mid-January, so getting close to that pre-op appointment, they called me and said, hey, we have a spot that opened up for surgery if you want it on the 24th, which is 2 days after my original pre-op. So that was kind of like a big, whoa, this is real. I'm gonna have this surgery. I said yes to the date, and I was like, this is go time. Like, I need to actually get focused and take the pre-op diet seriously. So then they put me instantly on the pre-op diet. They just emailed me the instructions, and I only had about a week and a half on it, which some doctors do like 2 to 3 weeks, but I'm glad I only had a week and a half. But my liver did end up still being completely fine. That like was plenty of time to shrink it. And then so I went in to have my surgery just almost 2 weeks ago now on January 24th. And that was my whole pre-process. So like I said, about 6 months time, which is relatively fast in most cases, but it did feel like a long time to me. I was able to have my surgery and it went successfully, and I am loving even just the results so far. I've already lost 14 pounds since the surgery, and that's only in a week and a half, and 26 pounds since the pre-op diet. And that's probably the most weight I've ever lost in my life, like on one, like in that small of a period. Like, there's no way I could have done that before. So yeah, I'll make some more videos. I'm going to talk about my pre-op diet in another video, my surgery day experience, what I packed, and everything like that. So you can go ahead and go check those out once they're uploaded. And thanks so much. See you guys.